she walked through that door, the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen before. Sea green eyes and long blonde hair, cool smooth smile and didn't have care. I don't know why, but she walked my way. I was scared to death, but I was ready to play. Love at first sight sets the spirit free. I felt the dark clouds part, I heard the angels sing. My heart caught fire and my soul can fly. That's when I knew I had to make her mine. 2 days passed before I made that call. I was hoping for the best, but I was ready to fall. At 3 a.m. we were still on that phone. We both agreed that we were tired of being alone. Hello, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to the big show. My name is Mickey, and this is Mickey in the Middle, the quintessential show for Middle Americans, where all Middle Americans are welcome. On this show, we try to ignore the 20% of the crazies on the left, and we try to avoid the 20% of the crazies on the right. And we try to deal with pragmatic solutions for the 60% of Americans that are right in the middle. So, if this is your first time watching, welcome to the big show. If this is not your first time, everybody knows this. We first recognize the people that come in and chat first. So big hey to Mark Calcaterra, who won the Mickey in the Middle gold medal today for his quick comment that just said hello. And there's Carolyn right there. So if you have anything to say, I don't look at the chat very often because I get in my own stream of consciousness. But if you have something to say, please go ahead and say it right there. So hi, Carolyn. How you doing? Hello, Mark. Thanks a lot for joining us here. All right. So let's kick the show off the way that we traditionally do, which is taking a look at the Constitution, how many people you are sharing the third rock from the sun with, and then how much in debt are we? And there's going to be more on that in the later in the show. So without further ado, this is the greatest document ever conceived by human beings, we the people, the Constitution of the United States of America, that basically says how we're going to run our government and what is expected from the different branches of government and for the people. And then it's also the amendments to the Constitution. I should give it its own slide, but the amendments to the Constitution are how we amend the Constitution of the United States of America. And the first 10 are our rights as the civilian population in the country. You are sharing the world with 8,249,000,000 people. And in the United States of America, we're up to 347 million people, almost 350 million people. Those people share a debt of 37,552,386,800,000, somewhere in there. So what we're not going to talk about tonight is we are not going to talk about Trump at all. So I just want to let you know what we're going to talk about is not Trump. The reason I say that is Trump, right now we're in the middle of a government shutdown. It started on the 1st of October, and that's because the Republicans and the Democrats can't come to a consensus on a continuing resolution to fund the government through the end of the month. So that means that they had to throw all that crap out and basically that shut down the government. Now, nobody panic. We've done this lots before. The Democrats and the Republicans can't get along in the Senate, although the House of Representatives had a bill that went through. The Senate is the one that's screwing all this up. So they cannot come to a consensus, but we're not going to talk about that. We're also not going to talk about Trump's speech to the generals. So if you don't know, the President of the United States and the Secretary of War, which is Pete Hegseth, called all the generals from across the military into Quantico.
They all sat down in an auditorium, and then Pete Hegseth gave a speech, and the president gave a speech. I'm not going to talk about that. I may talk about it next week. But what I want to talk about is I want to talk about a meme that I came across. Now, what happened in this meme was I read the meme, and then I thought, wow, what a great philosophy, what a great thought. And then I saw it again, and I read it differently. And then I saw it again on somebody else's page, and I read it a third time, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to have to make a comment or two about this meme. So what is the meme that we're talking about? I'm going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the truth that's in this meme, because this meme captures the very essence of what may be wrong with our country. Because there's two philosophies that are prominent in our country. And I'm going to talk about all of those things. So the meme said, I really don't care how many flag decals and guns you have. Patriotism to me is loving your country enough to care for the sick, educate kids, end poverty, restore the environment, and right our wrongs. Now, doesn't that sound nice? Doesn't that sound like something that you want to do? Doesn't it sound like philosophy that patriotism needs to be tied to all of these things? Let's take a look at it one more time. I really don't care how many flag details and guns you have. Patriotism to me is loving your country enough to care for the sick, educate kids, end poverty, restore the environment, and right our wrongs. So, here are my thoughts on that. This is convoluting too many things that make it hard to grasp a single concept. They have linked patriotism with being a good human being. Now, patriotism is in itself one thing. And when I explain what patriotism is to you, from my perspective, then you will realize that that has nothing to do with everything else that's on the list. But when you read the list, you read, hey, shouldn't we do all that stuff? So, yeah, we should do all that stuff. So, the concept of being a patriot, a fantastic idea. I love that. The things that are on the list, I also love that. But the problem is when you equate one with the other, then you have this dichotomy of concepts that can go together, but oftentimes should be separate for the reasons I'm about to go over. It's absolutely crazy. Hey, by the way, Sherry's here. So, hey, everybody say hey to Sherry. All right. So, here's what I got, right? Patriotism. Now, I start with patriotism. I believe that I'm a patriot. I believe that most of my friends are patriots. If they're not, well, that's okay, right? They still live in the country and they're still good people. So, what the internet definition of patriotism is devotion to the welfare of one's country. Got to be careful there. Devotion to welfare of one's country. The passion which inspires one to serve one's country also can be defined as patriotism. In the 1950s, it said, I asked Chat GPT this. It said, devotion to one's country, love for its values, and pride in its achievement. It involves supporting national interests, defending freedom, and embracing American culture. Often in the context of the Cold War and the Civil Rights Movement. So that was in the 1950s. I equate that. When I started this show, I said that I was going to take this and I was going to make this a show about middle Americans. And the two primary documents that I use to prove that people are in the middle or not are the Declaration of Independence, which we sent to King George III, and the Constitution of the United States with the amendments. Here's why that's important. We have a definition problem about what is patriotic, right? So the Declaration of Independence, which is in this little book right here, Oh, that's the Constitution of the United States. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. The Declaration of Independence was a list of grievances. It's a list of grievances that we sent to King George III, and we said, hey, King George, you're oppressing us. You're a tyrant. You are a bad human being. You're not letting us be free. You're not letting us run our country. You're overbearing. You're obnoxious. You are an overlord, and you are not a good person because we cannot be free if you are stepping on our necks all the time. You tax us too much. You let the grievances of the military take precedence over grievances of the people. You throw everybody out that you don't want to hear of. You don't let us have a vote in anything. You are a bad person. You're a tyrannical government, and we're kicking you to the curb. That is very important. You got to understand. Patriots stood up and said the United States of America, which did not exist, has grievances because you are a bad human being. You're tyrannical, and we are going to kick you to the curb. We want to become our own country. So we're going to do that. We're going to cut deals with other countries like France and for Spain and Portugal. And we're going to get some money and we're going to kick you to the curb. And that's what happened in the Revolutionary War. And at the end of the Revolutionary War, they came up with the Constitution of the United States of America. The Constitution of the United States of America is a very, very simple document. It has 5 different little sections, isn't it? And one of those, first one is the legislator, and what do? Second one is the president. What does the president do? The third one is the judicial branch and what they do, and the rest is a bunch of baloney, not baloney. It's the way that we run taxes and immigration and other things that revolve around what we do as a country. Now, the amendments to the Constitution are very, very important because the amendments to the Constitution do 2 things for middle Americans. First of all, it says what the rights are that you have. Now, I want to outline these. What are the rights that you have? They're in the first 10. They're called the Bill of Rights, right? It's like freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to assemble, freedom to have your grievances against the government addressed. It's not to be maliciously prosecuted by them. It's the right to determination, not to have the government do anything, right? That's freedom. Those things are freedom. That's your freedom that I'm talking about. When you defend the concepts that are in the Constitution, then you're talking about patriotism because patriotism revolves around the country and what the country stands for. And it has to do with the way that the country is run and what rights do the people have. That's patriotism, in my opinion. Now, patriotism can come in lots of forms. You can serve in the government, you can serve in the military, you can serve in your community, you can serve in your churches, you can not serve, you can be a hermit, you can live in the mountains, you can live in 50 different states and 5 different territories. You can do a lot of different things because you're free, because the Constitution, the amendment to the Constitution, and the Constitution of the United States says this is the way we're going to run things. Do you like the system or do you not like the system? If you like the system, that's patriotism. If you don't like the system, that is also patriotism. See, back in the 20s, we had this thing that abolished alcohol sales in the United States on a federal level all the way across. Everybody went, yay, look, the politicians did it. But more people said, that's bullshit. So they came up with amendments to get rid of alcohol, and then they came up with a federally mandated, that's in the Constitution of the United States of America, and then they came up with another constitutional amendment that kicked that concept to the curb. We have a great document that can be changed. But one of the things that will never change because it'll never get past the people is you can't take our right to free speech. You can't take away our right to assemble. You can't take away our rights to guns. You can't take the right that the government can prosecute you. The government can go through your things. That there are other not mentioned rights that you have as a middle American. And that's a big deal. Because the definition of a patriot has to do with what's going on in the country. I would like to now kind of switch over to the list. Now, on the list, this is a big deal. This is a big deal because the list of things that they have listed in here are all great ideas. I love these. Care for the sick, educate your kids, end poverty, restore the environment, right or wrong. Who doesn't want to do those things? I want you to know that all those things are great. I wholeheartedly believe that we need to figure out a way to care for the sick, educate kids, end poverty, restore the environment, right our wrongs. Those are great. Anybody who disagrees with that is crazy, or they haven't been paying attention. They don't have any empathy. They don't have any sympathy. But that's not patriotism. We are free people. You're free. Your job is to be free. The government has decided that they are going to take some of these roles on. They said, hey, look here, it's part of the government's job to take care of people. We should care for the sick. How are we going to do that? We should educate our kids. How are we going to do that? We should end poverty. How are we going to do that? We're going to restore the environment. How are we going to do that? And we're going to right our wrongs. How are we going to do that? All of those questions have been answered multiple times in multiple forums in the Congress, in the Senate, by the administrative branch. The judicial branch gets a say in it every once in a while when the two branches of government collide, or civil people collide, civil organizations collide, or people collide. The judicial branch kind of solves those problems for us. But it's not patriotism. And people are kind of convoluting the two, and they're saying that the purpose of government, if you say that the purpose of government is to care for the sick, educate kids, end poverty, restore the environment, and right our wrongs, how you go about that is very, very important. I've taken you back to the conversation I had about the Declaration of Independence. King George was a tyrant. He ran things with an iron fist, the world's greatest navy, and a so-so army. So they would take the Navy, they would put people on the boats, they would float them over to the continental United States, and then those army people would run roughshod over Massachusetts and New York and Connecticut and Virginia and Maryland and North Carolina and all the other states that are in the original 13. Why is that a big deal? Well, it's a big damn deal because that's one form of government that we didn't want. We had to get rid of that government because King George didn't give a crap about all that stuff. He didn't care about the sick. He didn't care about education. He didn't care about poverty or restoring anything or righting wrongs. He just did what he wants. So first you have to have a form of government that can actually come together and say, should we address these issues? Because there's a ton of issues out there. There's a lot more issues out there than just this. This is meme hyperbolic bullshit. Yeah, they sound great. They sound fantastic. Take care of kids. Yay. Take care of the old people. Yay. Whose job is it to do all that stuff? Is it the government's job to do that? Well, our government has decided to take on those issues. But if you're against those issues, or if you don't believe that the way that the government's taking care of those issues, it doesn't make you not a patriot. It doesn't make you less of a citizen of the United States of America. It makes you somebody who says, I don't like the way the government is doing this. I have a difference of opinion. My opinion is guaranteed to be able to be verbalized because of the First Amendment to the Constitution, which says that there will be free speech. See how that works? So the disagreement is not about who's a patriot. We can all be patriots. we can all disagree, and we have the right to disagree because the form of government that we have adopted in this country and have had for 250 years, almost 250 years, is significant and important. But when you link one to the other, when you link them, all of a sudden you're like, hey, you're not a patriot, son of a bitch. And all of a sudden you go, hey, all the people that have guns and all the people that have the stickers and all of the people that do this and all of the people that do that, they're not patriots because they disagree with me. That's wrong. But as long as we're on it, as long as we're on this, we're talking about this, and we've only been talking for 20 minutes, I have a list of things that I would like to address. Here's the list. Love your country enough to care for the sick, educate our children, end poverty, restore the environment, and right our wrongs. Let's talk about the first one. Care for the sick. My wife got sick. We had health insurance. Is it your responsibility to take care of my wife when my wife gets sick and the bills get too high? Is it your job to give me money when my wife gets sick or my child gets sick or my parents get sick? Is it my job to give you money if your parents get sick or your loved one gets sick? Is it my job to do that? Because here's what I'm hearing when I say this, that patriotism to me is loving your country enough to care for the sick, means that you either agree with the premise or you don't agree with the premise that somebody in the government can take my money and give it to you or take your money and give it to me. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a national health care program, but you want the government to be the intermediate and determine who gets the money and who doesn't get the money. What is the means test? Do rich people get any of that money? Do middle class Americans get any of that money? Do poor people alone get that money? Do scammers get that money? What is the qualification? Is cancer good, but a sprained foot not? How do we divide that up? And then how much money are you going to take from me to do all this? Because that's what you're equating with patriotism, is love your country enough to care for the sick. And I do love the country, and I do love taking care of sick people. Believe me, the number of things that I've seen on the internet and the number of donations that I have made for people is too high for me to count. But I do care about sick people, and I try to help them out whenever I can. Let's talk about education. Enough to care for the sick and educate our kids. We're spending billions upon billions upon billions of dollars on our kids, and they're doing nothing but getting dumber. The statistics are staggering in some places. I believe in Baltimore, they have not had one kid proficient in math in several high schools. Not one kid has gone through the education system in those high schools and come out competent in math. And the numbers for reading are just as atrocious. And that's happening all over the country. It's like all of the money that we're investing is absolutely crazy. Here's a staggering statistic for you. From 2002 to 2020, we raised per student spending by 25% and gotten less results. Between 2021 and 2022, we raised the per capita spending of the government at all levels, at the federal, state, local levels, by 8.9%. It's like it went from like $12,000 a year per student to like almost $17,000 per capita. And you would think that the kids in the classroom would enjoy that money, that the kids in the classroom would pay for more teachers, and that we could have better educators. And we take all that money, we give it to our teachers, but that's not what happened. This is a case of somebody wanted my money and your money to give to the government, to give to schools to make them better. But here's what happened. In 1950, the per student or the per teacher to administrative staff was at 2.37 teachers to every one not teacher in our education system. So that's in 1950. That's 75 years. From 2.37 teachers to one non-teacher to now in 2025, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. You want to hear something crazy? In Virginia, they have a 1 teacher to 1.8, almost 2 people that are not teachers in their system. Is that crazy? And what did they ask us to do? They said, give us money and we're going to distribute it to make education better. And they didn't make education better. They employed more people that were not teachers. So when you say you're not a patriot because you don't believe in educating kids, how much more can I believe because they take my money and they take it, the amount of property tax that I pay in order to support our schools, the sales tax and everything else that they get from me at the local level, at the state level, at the federal level is absolutely ridiculous for not getting better outcomes. Let's go to the next one. Poverty. This is crazy. Crazy. Let's talk about poverty. We're throwing billions of dollars at the problem, and the homeless problem is getting worse. $1 billion. To equate that I'm not a patriot because I don't want to take care of the homeless is crazy because I take a stack of $5 bills and I keep them in my truck. And whenever I see somebody on the corner, I usually give them $5 because they're having a harder life than I am. Now, many people say, Mickey, you shouldn't do that. And because you're encouraging that kind of thing. I can't help it. I don't care what their reason is for standing on a corner. If that is their job, if that is a scam, if that is a whatever, they're on a corner and they're doing worse than I am. And I'm going to give them that money because that's the way that I am. I give a lot of money to church. I give a lot of money to charities. I give a lot of people to individuals. I give a lot of people standing on corners money because that's my job. But what about the government taking my money and giving it to those? Homeless problem is not getting better. Poverty situation is not getting better, but the government's trying. Don't tell me that the government's not trying. Don't tell me that red and that blue care more than one or the other. They just have different processes in order to do that. Let's take a look at this. What about Section 8 housing? What about health and urban development, continuum of care program for the homelessness? What about Medicaid, which is medical care for low-income individuals? What about SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program? Everybody's acting like we're not doing anything with this. And everybody's like, hey, man, we're not doing anything. We need to do more for the... Damn it, we give them billions and billions and billions of dollars. And our government blows it. Meanwhile, everybody's complaining about churches picking up the slack and saying, hey, churches shouldn't be 501c3 or 501 organizations because they come with a Christian or Muslim or Jewish slant to their message. I don't care. If they're taking care of the homeless, if they're taking care of the downtrodden, if they're taking care of unwed mothers that need assistance, if they're taking care of the downtrodden, that's where I give the majority of my money because I know what my church does with the money. I see the results of what my church does with the money, and I give the majority of my money to my church so I can see the good things that they do in our community and now starting throughout the rest of the world. But those are my choices. Like I said before, is it my job to take care of your mom? Because if it is, I don't want you to say that the government should do it. I want you to tell me that I should do it. I want you to tell me that I'm not doing enough. I'm not worried about my neighbor over there. I'm not worried about my neighbor over there. I'm not worried about you. I'm not worried about anybody else. I want somebody to come up and tell me to my face that I'm not doing enough because I pay a shitload in taxes and I donate to charities. So the question is, where are the priorities and when you link it to patriotism? Because all of the things on this list are great, but why are you connecting the two? Restore our environment? To when? When are we supposed to pick a date and tell me what the temperature is supposed to be, and then I'll go with that. But the temperature's been changing for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. You want to stop something? Go stop China. Go tell China to restore the environment. They're building more coal plants per they're like they're finishing like one coal plant or two coal plants a week in China. That's hundreds of coal burning plants that are coming on. You want to know why? They have 1 billion people in their country. Do you know what the 1 billion people would like? To stay warm in the winter. They would like to be able to have electricity so that they can have a modern day house with a modern day air conditioning system that can heat and cool. Because when you're trying to lift 1 billion people out of poverty, it costs money and you got to be able to do it at the cheapest way possible. And the cheapest way is coal fired plants that make electricity. Now, I'm not saying that the Chinese are irresponsible. I love the fact that they're trying to take care of their people. But don't come harping at me about because I drive a hybrid Ford F-150 truck. I know aren't I cool? I'm the coolest guy that drives a Ford F-150 hybrid truck in my house. Just telling you, I'm one for one. Here's the problem. The problem is when you say restore the environment, we had Superfund sites to clean up chemicals. We're still doing environmental protection. We're still doing all of the stuff that we're supposed to be doing. Flint, Michigan, and the water situation there, that was decades old stuff that they're trying to fix now. But tell me what the temperature's supposed to be. Tell me what the CO2 limits are supposed to be. There's all this ambiguous, give me money so that you can restore the environment. But if you don't want to restore the environment the way that I want you to restore the environment, then you're not a patriot. That's bullshit. And right or wrongs, what does that mean? What does right or wrongs mean? Let's look at the list one more time. What does right or wrongs mean? This is insulting to a lot of people. It's very insulting to a lot of people. Right? Right or wrongs. What does that mean? All right. You mean like have a civil war to stop slavery? Yeah. Slavery's wrong and we should fix that. Okay. So we did fix that. Hundreds of thousands of people died. That's why we have Juneteenth. Because when Texas finally got word and somebody went down there and went, hey, all these people are free, Texas went, you got us. And that's why we celebrate Juneteenth. Right? But the end of the Civil War, when slavery was ended, that was a big ass damn deal. How about ending slavery as a concept around the world because we're still trying to fight slavery around the world because it's still happening. But not only, so England was the first country to abolish slavery. England was. No other country did it before England did. Then the United States followed up with that. And we even had a civil war about it. We weren't as nice about it as England was. They just said, hey, we need to get rid of slavery. And the people went, yeah, we should do that. But then we had a war over it because they had a bunch of stupid people that went, oh, no, 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 I like owning people. It's going to run my industry. So half of the country went to war with the other half of the country. And then eventually the other half of the country went, you're right, we shouldn't do this anymore. So then they started Jim Crow laws, and we got rid of that too. Because the government said, hey, look here, all people are free. And then we had the 13th, to 14th, and 15th Amendments, freed the slave, made them citizens, and gave them the right to vote. It's in the Constitution of the United States when somebody says right or wrong. It was wrong, and we righted it. I don't understand what we had. And then they were like, hey, man, we need to get rid of other laws. So we end up with what? Civil rights laws? The entire civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s that came up with the Civil Rights Act in 1964. It went on after that, right? It went on with gay marriage, right? They were like, hey, people can't get married if they're gay. And then somebody said, no, we can. And it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court went, yeah, they can. Yeah, gay people. And now all 50 states. What are you? Right. So we're righting wrongs all the way around the world because that's not associated with being a patriot, but it's the right thing to do. I love this meme. I love this meme. You want to know why? Because it's so right and so wrong at the exact same time. I really don't care how many decals and guns you have. Patriotism, to me, is loving your country. Period. Stop. Being a nice person and having a country that addresses all of these other things, like caring for the sick, educating kids, and poverty, ending poverty, restoring the environment, righting our wrongs, is what we should do because we're good people. But how we do that, we're going to disagree on. We're just going to disagree on the process of taking care of the sick and educating kids and ending poverty and restoring the environment and righting wrongs. So this is why I had to do this show, because I love this as two individual concepts. I just don't like the fact that you're saying that somebody's not patriotic if they don't agree with your idea of patriotism. The terms are ambiguous at best. But the concept of you wanting me to be a good human being by taking my money and then somebody else deciding what to do with my money offends me. It offends me that somebody wants to take my money and then do it their way, or I'm not a good person and I'm not patriotic. I had to get that off my chest. Thank you very much for coming along with the journey. Hi, Don Ledger. How you doing? I'm sorry it took me so long to recognize you, but I'm back in the chat now. So anyway, just want to let you guys know that I really appreciate you guys spending a little time with me at Mickey in the middle of the week, Wednesday night, 9 p.m. If you liked what I said here, like it, share it, tell your friends about it, or hit the notification bell or whatever you got to do with that. I don't advertise a show other than a couple hours prior to doing this. So I hope to see you Wednesday night. I think I'm going to be here next Wednesday night. I got some ducks I got to take care of. So you guys be good. You have a great night. I'll see you next time on Mickey in the Middle. You guys be good. Good luck. God bless. Hey, and live your best life. Be kind. Be a patriot and believe in the entire list that we just talked about, because you got to care for the sick, educate our kids, end poverty, restore the environment, and right our wrongs. This is Mickey. Good night.